The thunder of hooves against the dusty trail came to an abrupt halt as Delilah Summers yanked back on the reins, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The posse was still following, she could feel it in her bones. Montana Territory, 1878, was no place for a woman on the run, especially one with a price on her head for a crime she didn't commit. Blood trickled down her arm from where the bullet had grazed her during the escape from Whitewater. Her stolen horse, a sturdy Appaloosa, whinnied softly as she guided it off the main trail and into a thicket of pines, desperate to throw off her pursuers. "Just a little farther," she whispered, patting the horse's neck. The animal had been running hard for nearly 2 hours, and exhaustion was setting in for both of them. As dusk approached, Delilah spotted a faint glow in the distance. Smoke rising from a chimney meant people, and people meant danger. But the alternative, spending another night in the wilderness with temperatures dropping and her meager supplies dwindling, seemed worse. She needed medical attention for her wound, which was beginning to throb alarmingly. The small ranch appeared humble but well kept. A 2-story cabin stood beside a modest barn with a corral containing several horses. Delilah hesitated at the edge of the property, weighing her options. The posse wouldn't expect her to seek shelter so boldly. Perhaps that was her advantage. When she was 15 feet from the cabin, the door swung open. A tall man stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand but not raised. In the dim light, she could make out broad shoulders, a strong jawline partially obscured by stubble, and alert eyes scanning her with suspicion. "State your business," he called, his voice deep and even. Delilah swayed in the saddle, the blood loss and exhaustion finally catching up to her. "I need help," she managed before darkness consumed her vision and she pitched sideways. She was falling, and then suddenly she wasn't. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground. The last thing she remembered was being carried, the scent of leather and pine enveloping her as consciousness slipped away. When Delilah awoke, she was lying on a bed, her wound cleaned and bandaged. The cabin was warm, a fire crackling in the stone hearth. She tried to sit up, wincing at the pain that shot through her arm. "I wouldn't move too quickly if I were you," came a voice from the doorway. The man from the porch stood there, holding a steaming mug. In the lamplight, she could see him clearly now, tall and rugged, with sandy brown hair and eyes the color of a summer storm. He wasn't wearing his gun belt, but Delilah knew he likely had it within reach. "Who are you?" she asked, her throat dry. "Finn Tucker. This is my ranch." He approached and offered the mug. "Tea with honey, good for shock." Delilah accepted it cautiously. "Thank you for not turning me away." "Haven't decided what to do with you yet," he replied frankly. "That's a bullet wound, not a scratch from a tree branch. You want to tell me why you're running?" She sipped the tea, buying time. "My name is Delilah Summers. I'm accused of something I didn't do. Most folks in trouble claim innocence. I suppose they do." She met his gaze steadily. "But I'm telling the truth." Finn studied her for a long moment. "Rest. We'll talk in the morning." "Whatever trouble you're in, it won't be solved tonight." True to his word, Finn left her alone that night. Delilah slept fitfully, haunted by memories of the bank robbery she'd witnessed, the corrupt sheriff who'd framed her when she recognized his brother among the masked bandits, and the hasty trial that had condemned her to hang. Her escape had been desperate and bloody. Morning came with the aroma of coffee and bacon. Delilah found her clothes cleaned and mended at the foot of the bed. Her arm still ached, but the dizziness had subsided. She dressed quickly and followed the smell to the kitchen. Finn stood at the stove, his back to her. He wore a simple blue shirt tucked into worn jeans, suspenders crossing his broad back. Without turning, he said, "There's coffee in the pot. Breakfast is almost ready." "How did you know I was here?" "Floorboard by the door creaks, always has." He turned, spatula in hand. "Sit, you need to eat." The kitchen was modest but organized, with copper pots hanging from hooks and shelves lined with provisions. Through the window, Delilah could see the corral where a ranch hand was working with the horses. "Your foreman?" she asked, nodding toward the window. "Diego, good man." Been with me since I bought this place 3 years ago. Finn set a plate of eggs and bacon before her. Now, I reckon it's time you told me your story, the true one. Delilah hesitated, then decided honesty was her only option. She explained about the bank robbery in Whitewater, recognizing Sheriff Hollister's brother among the thieves, and how the sheriff had arrested her for the crime, fabricating evidence and witnesses. The judge is Hollister's cousin, she concluded. The trial was a farce. I was to hang yesterday morning. I injured a guard during my escape. Finn listened without interruption, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he refilled her coffee cup before speaking. Whitewater is 3 counties over. What brought you all this way? I heard there's a federal marshal in Pinecrest who's investigating corruption. I thought if I could reach him. Finn nodded slowly. Marshal Davies, good man from what I hear, but Pinecrest is still 2 days' ride from here and with a posse on your trail. I don't expect you to help me, Delilah said quickly. You've done enough already. I'll leave after breakfast. And go where? In your condition with no supplies? She had no answer for that. Finish your breakfast, Finn said, rising from the table. I need to check on the herd. We can figure out what to do with you after. Left alone, Delilah considered her options. She could steal a horse and supplies, but the thought of repaying Finn's kindness with theft sat poorly with her. She could continue on foot, but that was practically suicide. From the window, she watched Finn converse with Diego, gesturing toward the distant pasture. There was something compelling about him, a quiet strength that radiated confidence without arrogance. The door opened, and Finn returned, removing his hat. Diego spotted dust on the south trail. Could be nothing, could be your posse. Either way, we need to move you. Alarm shot through her. I won't bring trouble to your door. I'll go and get caught within the hour, he interrupted. No, there's a line shack up in the hills. We use it during calving season. You'll be safe there while I ride to Pinecrest and find Marshal Davies. Delilah stared at him. Why would you do that for me? You don't know me. I know enough, Finn replied. I know what corrupt lawmen look like, dealt with my share in Texas before coming here. If you're telling the truth, you deserve a fair hearing. If you're lying, he shrugged. I'll find out soon enough. Within 30 minutes, they were riding toward the hills, Delilah on a gentle mare and Finn leading the way on his stallion. He'd packed supplies for several days, including medical items for her wound. The line shack was small but solidly built, nestled in a grove of pines with a stream nearby. Inside was sparse a bed, a table with 2 chairs, a small stove, and shelves stocked with basic provisions. It's not much, Finn said, bringing in the supplies, but it's defensible and hidden. Stay inside, keep smoke to a minimum during daylight, and you should be fine until I return. How long will you be gone? 2 days to reach Pinecrest, a day to find Davies and explain, 2 days back. 5 days, give or take, 5 days alone, waiting, hoping. Delilah nodded, trying to mask her apprehension. Here. Finn placed a revolver on the table. Do you know how to use one? My father taught me, before he died. Good. He hesitated, then added, I'm leaving you my best rifle, too. It's loaded. The gesture of trust wasn't lost on Delilah. I don't know how to thank you. Stay alive. That'll be thanks enough. Finn checked the provisions one last time. There's enough food and water for a week if I'm not back by then. I understand. Their eyes met, and something passed between them, an unspoken connection that neither acknowledged aloud. I should go, Finn said, breaking the moment. The sooner I leave, the sooner I'll be back. Delilah watched from the doorway as he mounted his horse. Just before he rode away, he turned back. You'll be all right, Delilah Summers. You're stronger than you know. Then he was gone, disappearing into the trees, leaving Delilah with an odd mixture of fear and hope. The first 2 days passed slowly. Delilah kept busy exploring the immediate surroundings, always careful to stay hidden. She cleaned her wound, which was healing well thanks to Finn's care. In the evenings, she pored over the few books he'd left, a volume of Tennyson's poems, a guide to local flora, and a dog-eared copy of The Count of Monte Cristo. On the 3rd day, a storm blew in, bringing driving rain and wind that howled through the pines. Delilah built up the fire, grateful for the ample supply of dry wood Finn had stacked inside. As night fell, the storm intensified. Lightning flashed, illuminating the cabin in brief, ghostly bursts. A sound outside made her freeze not thunder, but the unmistakable crunch of footsteps. Delilah reached for the rifle, her heart pounding. The footsteps approached the door, then stopped. A knock followed. "Who's there?" she called, rifle aimed. "It's me," came Finn's voice, strained and weary. Delilah hurried to unlock the door. Finn stumbled inside, soaked to the skin and shivering. A nasty gash crossed his forehead, blood mixing with rainwater on his face. "What happened?" she asked, helping him to a chair. "Ran into trouble," he managed through chattering teeth. "Need to get warm first." Delilah worked quickly, building up the fire, helping him out of his wet clothes and into the spare blankets she'd found in a trunk. She heated water, cleaned his wound, and forced him to drink a cup of hot coffee laced with whiskey from his saddlebag. When color finally returned to his face, Finn explained. "Made it to Pinecrest, found Davies. He knows about Hollister, been building a case against him for months. Your testimony could be the key." "That's good news," Delilah said, relief washing through her. "There's more." "On my way back, I encountered 2 of Hollister's deputies. They're searching every homestead and ranch in the territory." Fear clutched at her heart. "Did they follow you?" "No, I made sure of that." His hand went to the gash on his forehead. "Though not without cost. You fought them." "One of them, the other doesn't know I spotted him." Finn grimaced as he shifted in the chair. "Davies is gathering a federal posse. He'll be here in 3 days to escort you safely to Pinecrest." Delilah sank onto the second chair. 3 more days. The good news is you won't hang." "Davies is convinced of your innocence based on what I told him." "And the bad news," Finn met her gaze steadily. "Hollister's desperate. He knows if you testify, his whole operation collapses. He'll do anything to stop you." That night, Delilah insisted Finn take the bed while she kept watch. Despite his protests, exhaustion won out and he fell into a deep sleep. Delilah sat by the window, rifle across her lap, watching the storm gradually subside. By morning, Finn's fever had broken and his wound looked better in the light of day. Delilah changed the bandage, acutely aware of his eyes on her as she worked. "You have gentle hands," he murmured. "My mother was a healer. I learned from her." She died when I was 16. Consumption." Finn nodded. "My parents died in a fire when I was 20. That's when I left Texas and came north." These small exchanges continued throughout the day as they moved around the cabin, sharing the confined space with growing ease. Finn told her about his dream of building the ranch into something substantial, a legacy. Delilah spoke of her life before Whitewater, teaching at a small school in Colorado, her love of books, her hope to someday open a proper library in a frontier town. As evening approached, Finn insisted on taking the watch. "You need rest too," he said firmly. Delilah knew he was right. Her body was still healing and the constant vigilance had worn her down. She lay on the bed, listening to the soft sounds of Finn moving about the cabin, checking the windows, loading the revolver. "Finn," she called softly. He appeared in the doorway. "Yes, thank you for believing me." "For helping me." A small smile touched his lips. "Get some sleep, Delilah." She dreamed of open prairies and endless skies, of a cabin filled with books and laughter, of a life without fear. When she woke, the cabin was filled with the aroma of coffee and something sweet. Finn stood at the small stove, his back to her. "Hope you like Johnny cakes. It's about all I can manage without burning down this place." "Smells wonderful," she said, rising and smoothing her hair. They ate breakfast together, the ease between them growing. Afterward, Finn suggested they inventory their supplies just to be safe. As they worked side by side, their hands occasionally brushed, sending unexpected warmth through Delilah. Midday, Finn stepped outside to check the surroundings. He returned with a handful of wildflowers, awkwardly holding them out to her. "Thought these might brighten the place up a bit," he said, a faint blush coloring his cheeks. Delilah arranged them in a tin cup, touched by the gesture. They're beautiful. That night, as they sat by the fire, Finn asked about her plans after testifying. I haven't thought that far ahead, she admitted. Just staying alive has consumed my attention. You could return to teaching. Perhaps, though my reputation may be difficult to restore even with exoneration. Finn stared into the flames. You could stay here. Montana Territory needs teachers too. The suggestion hung in the air between them, loaded with meaning neither was ready to articulate. I don't belong here, Delilah said softly, though not unkindly. This is your world, not mine. Finn looked up, his eyes reflecting the firelight. You belong beside me, he said simply. The words struck her like a physical force. For a moment, Delilah couldn't breathe, couldn't think. In the span of less than a week, this man had saved her life, believed in her innocence, risked everything to help her, and now he was offering her a future she hadn't dared imagine. You barely know me, she whispered. I know enough, he replied, echoing his words from days earlier. I know you're brave and resilient. I know you're kind, even when life hasn't been kind to you. I know that when I'm with you, I see possibilities I never saw before. Delilah felt tears prick her eyes. And what if this is just gratitude on my part or desperation? Then we'll know that too in time. Finn reached across the small space between them, his hand covering hers. I'm not asking for promises, Delilah, just a chance. Before she could respond, a sound outside froze them, both horses approaching, more than one. Finn was on his feet instantly, grabbing the rifle. Get your things, he whispered urgently. There's a cellar under the floorboards by the stove. If it's Hollister's men, hide there. Delilah gathered her few possessions as Finn peered through the window. 2 riders, he reported. Can't make them out clearly. Could it be Marshal Davies early? Possibly. Stay back. Finn positioned himself by the door, rifle ready. A voice called from outside. Hello, the cabin. Anyone home? Finn tensed. That's not Davies. Finn, Tucker, we know you're in there. Sheriff Hollister wants a word. Delilah's blood ran cold. They'd found her. There's nowhere to run, Tucker. We've got the place surrounded. Send out the Summers woman and you can walk away from this. Finn glanced at Delilah, determination hardening his features. Get to the cellar, he whispered. No matter what happens, stay hidden until you're sure it's safe. I won't leave you to face them alone, she protested. Delilah, please. If something happens to me, wait for Davies. He'll come. The desperation in his eyes convinced her. Finn lifted the concealed trapdoor, revealing a small storage space beneath. As Delilah lowered herself in, Finn bent down. This isn't how I imagined our story beginning, he said with a sad smile. But it's not the end either, I promise you that. He closed the trapdoor just as another call came from outside. In the darkness of the cellar, Delilah could hear Finn's footsteps moving away, then his voice addressing the men outside. This is private property. State your business properly or leave. We're looking for a fugitive. Delilah Summers, word is you've been harboring her. I live alone. Check for yourself if you don't believe me. There was a pause then. We will. Step outside, hands where we can see them. Delilah held her breath, straining to hear what was happening. Footsteps on the porch, the door opening wider, then multiple sets of boots entering the cabin. Search the place, ordered a gruff voice. The sounds of furniture being moved, cupboards opened, and bedding tossed filled the small cabin. Delilah pressed herself into the farthest corner of the cellar, praying they wouldn't discover the trapdoor. Nothing here, Sanders, reported a voice after several minutes. She has to be somewhere, insisted the one called Sanders. Tucker, where is she? Like I said, I live alone. The sharp sound of a fist connecting with flesh made Delilah wince. Try again, Sanders growled. Finn's voice remained steady. I can't tell you what I don't know. Another blow, followed by the sound of a body hitting the floor. We can do this all night, Sanders said. Or you can save yourself a world of hurt and tell us where she's hiding. You're wasting your time, Finn replied, his voice strained but defiant. What followed was a series of thuds and grunts that told Delilah Finn was being severely beaten. She bit her lip to keep from crying out, tears streaming down her face. This was her fault. He was suffering because of her. Eventually, the sound stopped. "Burn it," Sanders ordered. "If she's nearby, the fire will smoke her out. If not, it's a message to anyone else thinking of helping her." "What about him?" asked the second man. "Leave him. He made his choice." Heavy footsteps retreated. The door slammed. Through the cracks in the floorboards, Delilah could see flickering light growing stronger. They'd set fire to the cabin. Without hesitation, she pushed open the trapdoor and climbed out. Finn lay on the floor, his face bloody, one eye swollen shut. The fire had caught on the outer wall, flames already licking at the wooden boards. "Finn," she knelt beside him, cradling his head. "Can you hear me?" His good eye opened, focusing on her with effort. "You should have stayed hidden," he mumbled. "I'm not leaving you to burn," she said firmly. "Can you stand?" With Delilah's help, Finn struggled to his feet. The smoke was thickening, making it hard to breathe. They stumbled toward the door, Finn leaning heavily on her. Outside, the night was clear and cold. Delilah could see the retreating figures of Sanders and his companion, their backs to the cabin as they rode away, satisfied with their work. "The horses," Finn gasped. "Around back." They made it to the small lean-to where Finn had sheltered their mounts. The animals were nervous from the fire but unharmed. With tremendous effort, Finn mounted his stallion while Delilah climbed onto her mare. "Which way?" she asked, glancing back at the cabin now fully engulfed in flames. "North," Finn said, pointing. "There's another property, friend of mine, James Whitfield, about 5 miles. They rode slowly, Finn barely staying in the saddle. Delilah kept close, ready to catch him if he fell. The journey seemed endless, each minute stretching as Finn's condition worsened. Finally, they crested a hill and saw lights in the distance, a substantial farmhouse with outbuildings, a lantern burning on the porch. As they approached, a man appeared with a shotgun, calling out a challenge. "It's Finn Tucker," Delilah shouted back. "He's hurt." The man, presumably James Whitfield, lowered his weapon and hurried forward. "Good Lord, what happened to you?" "Long story," Finn managed. "Need help, James. Bring him inside," directed a woman's voice from the porch. "Quickly." The next hours passed in a blur. James and his wife, Martha, helped get Finn settled in their guest room. Martha, a former nurse during the war, tended his injuries with practiced hands while James took care of the horses. 3 broken ribs, numerous contusions, possibly a concussion, Martha reported when she finished. "But he's strong. He'll heal." Delilah sat by Finn's bedside through the night, holding his hand, whispering reassurances when he stirred restlessly. By morning, his fever had spiked, and Martha administered willow bark tea to bring it down. "You should rest too," James told Delilah. "You're dead on your feet." "I can't leave him," she replied simply. James studied her with kind eyes. "He means something to you." It wasn't a question, but Delilah answered anyway. "Everything." Over the next day, Finn's condition stabilized. His fever broke and he began to have periods of lucidity. During one such moment, he found Delilah still at his side. "You're still here," he murmured, his voice rough. "Where else would I be?" she replied, squeezing his hand. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Running." "It would be the smart thing to do." "I'm done running." His good eye widened slightly. "What about Davies?" "James rode to Pinecrest yesterday to find him. He should be back soon." Finn nodded weakly. "Good, that's good." "Rest now," Delilah said softly. "We'll talk more when you're stronger." But Finn's hand tightened on hers. "Need to say something first, in case—" "Don't," she interrupted. "You're going to be fine." "Delilah," he persisted. "What I said before about you belonging beside me, I meant it. I know it's fast, maybe foolish, but I've never been more certain of anything." Tears welled in her eyes. "Even after all this, the danger I've brought to your door, especially after all this." His gaze held hers. "Life's too short and too precious to waste time on doubts when your heart knows the truth." Before Delilah could respond, the sound of approaching riders drew her attention to the window. A group of mounted men was coming up the drive, led by James Whitfield. "It's them," she said, her pulse quickening. "Davies and his men." Finn tried to sit up but winced at the pain. "Go, talk to him." "End this." Delilah hesitated, then bent down and pressed a gentle kiss to Finn's lips. "I'll be back," she promised. Outside, she met Marshal Davies, a stern-faced man with iron-gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. He dismounted and approached her, hand extended. "Miss Summers." "I'm Federal Marshal William Davies. Mr. Tucker spoke highly of you. He's injured," she said immediately. "Hollister's men found us at the line shack." Davies's expression darkened. "How bad?" "He'll recover, but it was close." "And Hollister's men gone." "They thought burning the cabin would be enough." Davies nodded grimly. "Their mistake. Are you ready to make a formal statement?" "Yes," Delilah said firmly. "I want to end this." Over the next few hours, Delilah provided a detailed account of everything she'd witnessed, from the bank robbery to her escape and the events that followed. Davies took meticulous notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "This matches what we've suspected about Hollister for months," he said when she finished. "With your testimony and the evidence we've gathered, we can bring him down." "What happens now?" Delilah asked. "We ride for Pinecrest tomorrow. You'll be under federal protection until the trial." "After that," he shrugged, "you'll be free to go wherever you choose." That night, Delilah returned to Finn's room to find him sitting up, looking markedly better though still bruised. "Davies believes me," she said, settling beside him on the bed. "It's almost over. You leave tomorrow." She nodded. "For Pinecrest. The trial will be held there, away from Hollister's influence." Finn was quiet for a moment. "And after," Delilah took his hand, her decision made. "After, I'm coming home, if the offer still stands." The joy that spread across his face was answer enough, but he pulled her closer anyway. "It stands. It will always stand. Even though I've cost you your line shack," she teased gently. "A small price to pay," he murmured against her hair. "I'd lose everything I own and count myself lucky as long as I found you in the end." The next morning, Delilah prepared to leave with Davies and his men. Finn, against Martha's protests, insisted on seeing her off. "I'll be back as soon as I can," Delilah promised as they stood on the porch. "The trial shouldn't take more than a week or two." "I'll be waiting," Finn said, "and planning." "Planning what?" A mischievous glint appeared in his eyes. "Improvements to the main house. If I'm going to have a school teacher for a wife, we'll need a proper library." Delilah's heart swelled. "Is that a proposal, Finn Tucker?" "Consider it a promise of one to come." He kissed her hand. "When you return, I'll do it properly, on one knee with a ring and everything." Marshal Davies called from the yard that it was time to leave. Delilah embraced Finn carefully, mindful of his injuries. "Stay safe," he whispered. "I will. And Finn, when I come back, my answer will be yes." The journey to Pinecrest took 2 days, during which Davies and his deputies kept vigilant watch for any sign of Hollister's men. None appeared. In town, Delilah was provided a room at the hotel under guard while preparations for the trial proceeded. Word came 3 days later that Sheriff Hollister had been arrested, along with his brother and several deputies, including Sanders. The evidence against them was overwhelming, bolstered by Delilah's testimony and corroborating statements from other witnesses who'd been too afraid to speak up before. The trial lasted 8 days. Delilah took the stand on the 3rd day, recounting her story with clear, unwavering certainty. Hollister glared at her throughout, but she refused to be intimidated. When the verdict came back guilty on all counts, a weight lifted from her shoulders. "You're officially a free woman, Miss Summers," Davies told her afterward. "The governor has issued a full pardon for your escape, considering the circumstances. You can go anywhere now." Delilah knew exactly where she was going. The return journey to Finn's ranch took only a day and a half, as Delilah pushed her mount harder than prudence might dictate. When the familiar landscape came into view, her heart raced with anticipation. As she crested the final hill, she saw Finn standing in the yard, as if he'd known exactly when she'd arrive. He looked much recovered, the bruises faded to yellowish shadows, his stance strong and sure. Delilah dismounted and ran the last few yards into his waiting arms. "It's over," she said breathlessly. "They're all going to prison. Finn held her close, his chin resting on her head. "Welcome home, Delilah." That evening, as promised, Finn proposed properly on one knee beside the fireplace in the main house, with a simple but beautiful ring that had belonged to his mother. Delilah's yes was immediate and joyful. They were married 2 months later in the newly rebuilt church in Pinecrest, with James and Martha Whitfield standing as witnesses and Marshall Davies in attendance. The ceremony was simple, the celebration afterward lively, with neighbors and friends gathering to wish them well. As they danced under the stars, Finn whispered in her ear. Happy, Delilah looked up at the man who had saved her in every way a person could be saved and answered truthfully, "Completely." In the years that followed, the Tucker Ranch prospered. Finn expanded the property, adding more cattle and horses. Delilah opened a small school that served the children of neighboring ranches and the growing town nearby. The library she dreamed of became reality, first as a room in their home, then as a proper building in town. Their first child, a daughter, arrived a year after their marriage, followed by twin boys 2 years later. They named their daughter Hope, a testament to what had sustained them through their darkest hours. On their 5th anniversary, Finn surprised Delilah with a trip back to the site of the line shack. In its place stood a new cabin, larger and more comfortable than its predecessor, but built on the same spot. "Why here?" Delilah asked, taking in the rebuilt structure. Finn's arms encircled her from behind. "Because this is where it all began, where I first realized I couldn't imagine life without you, even though it nearly cost you your life," she teased. "Some things are worth the risk," he replied seriously. "You taught me that." As the sun set over the Montana hills, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Delilah leaned back against the strong chest of the man she loved, surrounded by the life they'd built together. "I still can't believe how lucky I am," she murmured. Finn turned her in his arms, his eyes reflecting the same love and wonder they had that night by the fire in the old line shack. "It wasn't luck," he said softly. "It was always meant to be. From the moment you rode onto my land, you belonged here, beside me." Delilah rose on tiptoe to kiss him, her heart full of the certainty that had grown stronger with each passing day. She had found her place in the world, not just a physical location, but the space beside this remarkable man who had believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. In his arms, she was home,